Hello, Rick here, hopefully with an answer to a question: what exactly is a 5-year mission? Starfleet's primary mandate is to explore, and this has been true since its inception, and most of its starship design and bureaucratic function is built towards this goal. Starfleet's vision extends much further than its territory does, with a large array of observatories and sensor nets, all designed to peer deep into the unexplored regions of space. However, looking is only the beginning and cannot reveal all the answers. Plus, the driving factor of most people in Star Trek is to better themselves through enrichment. One way of doing that is to actually get out there and see it and learn. So it is that numerous survey missions and courses are charted into these observed but untrodden boundaries. Ships are often assigned missions to investigate specific locations, new worlds, systems, and phenomena of interest. Some of these trips can take months, perhaps even a year in travel time, but Starfleet is judicious in its assignment of such trips. Often a course is plotted that will take a vessel along numerous other points of interest along the way, towards whatever end destination they have in mind before laying in a course back to UFP space. This has come a long way from the original Starfleet exploration vessel, the Enterprise NCC-1701, which was basically given a lot of leeway on where it went, considering it was all new to humans. As more ships emerged and the Federation formed, resources, star maps and intel were more readily shared, widening the scope to more organised explorative efforts. Exploring in these early days of the UFP now meant making good on the observations of at least 4 member worlds and churning out advancing vessels to match that requirement. Starfleet ships were growing ever more far-ranging, and the curtain was peeling back on that final frontier. The amount of self-repair crews could manage was increasing, the durability of technology was improving, and faster warp travel meant that it was taking less time to explore. Soon Starfleet found itself on the cusp of creating a new class of vessel, one that could survive for long periods of time without extensive maintenance, or at the least, one that did not require such too often. Thus, the idea of the 5-year exploratory mission was coined. If you had vetted the idea of such a mission in the 22nd century, even Starfleet would have called it optimistic. But by the mid-23rd, it was very much a reality. The Constitution-class starship was, of course, the vessel designed with this operational prowess in mind. A vessel that combined the best tech from numerous developments, was adaptable yet easy to overhaul if needed, and held the best warp drive of the era. Ships like the Enterprise, Yorktown, and Constellation were therefore prized postings for ambitious officers who wanted to get out there and discover something new. The earliest 5-year mission we know of in canon was the USS Constellation NCC-1017, under the command of then Captain Decker. This launched in 2245 to 2250, the launch year of the Constitution class signifying the beginning of this ambitious exploration initiative, and just how tied to it the Constitution was. This was followed up with numerous other such missions, and even the USS Enterprise found itself embarking on such missions back to back under Captains April, Pike, and of course Kirk. So, the basic premise of a 5-year mission is simple. Whereas one mission might be assigned to a smaller survey craft such as go here and chart this, the 5-year mission essentially saw these sorts of jobs sent back to back, with the vessel not making dock for long. Now, this did not mean that they never returned to Federation space, went in for repair, shore leave, or did other things except explore. In fact, vessels on a 5-year mission often saw themselves passing back through UFP space on their way to investigate a differing far-flung corner of space. And despite all the advances made in technology, sometimes the damages necessitated a team of engineers and a dry dock to fix. But the point was to keep these vessels flying into the unknown for as long as possible, and seldom assigned to a single location for long. Such tasks often involved planetary surveys, mapping out star charts, first contact missions, infrequent patrols, and pretty much any other mission that Starfleet ran. 5 years is a long time, so it's not as if the entire course was plotted out in advance, but you would typically see a general course applied with stops along the way in a specific area, maybe in month-long batches. On top of this, the very nature of exploration means that the unexpected was frequently encountered, and captains were allowed to investigate at their discretion, so long as they continued to update Starfleet Command of their whereabouts. So it was effectively a balancing act between assigned predetermined courses and the captain's informed whim. Which leads me to another point. Because of the nature of such 5-year exploratory craft to be nipping to and fro around the edges of Federation space and beyond, frequently it meant that they were the nearest vessel to respond to bigger issues. The Constitution in particular was a very fast and consistent vessel, so frequently its ongoing missions were interrupted with new orders from Command to respond to this issue, or, while you're in the area, could you courier this person or that cargo? Essentially, the 5-year mission was less of a single task and more of a background mission statement. When a starship was not required to perform a specific thing, it was to return to mapping, surveying and exploration. When it required repair, the goal was to get it patched up and sent back out there as fast as possible, with little time to install larger overhaul projects. For example, the Constitution-class Mark II overhaul was not conducted mid-5-year missions, as this was a months-long process, and so it was done between such assignments. But an emergency overhaul of a ship's subspace communications system would take a few weeks and was a necessary repair. Behind the scenes of these missions were all sorts of logistics going on. No doubt other vessels would be assigned to some things if they were available, but Starfleet is nothing if not a multitasker. So, loading up the Enterprise with a grain shipment because its 5-year mission has it operating near that shipping lane? Well, why not? However, if you wanted to assign it to a long-term patrol of the Klingon border, probably best not to assign the vessel tagged with a 5-year schedule. In the latter scenario, you'd likely see it asked to observe and patrol it, if it was in the area, until a new ship could take its place in a few days. If you wanted to break down the 5-year mission into a statement, it would probably go something like this. The aim is to keep the vessel in unknown and unexplored space as often as possible. This involves minimising time spent in dock, in stationary assignments, and for the duration it will not undergo major refit or overhaul unless strictly necessary. Additional assignments from Starfleet Command may take priority at times and be issued based on the exploratory vessel's position and ease of incorporating new parameters into its course and heading. The captain is to remain in regular contact with Starfleet Command while exploring at their discretion along the assigned areas. When a 5-year mission was completed, that is when you would see the most change to a starship that had just been on one. The ship itself would be pulled in for some much needed TLC, new developments would be installed, upgrades added, and so on. Meanwhile, this is an excellent jumping off point for staff. Although there was nothing limiting them from departing before to a new assignment, much like the starship itself, crew on such a mission would likely be earmarked as kinda occupied, unless there was something important or they requested a transfer. We don't know when the 5-year program was scrapped, or even if it ever really was, being so synonymous with the 23rd era exploration. It made for good publicity, and thrilling news back home too, so it stands to reason that the ventures were maintained for some time. We know that by the time of the late 24th century, for example, the Enterprise D was not on a 5-year mission but merely an ongoing one that saw it pretty much doing the same thing, but the Galaxy class was made to operate beyond even the 5-year limit, so ambitious was its function. But the Enterprise is not exactly a typical Starfleet ship, so it's hard to judge. There are references to 8-year missions, which makes sense that the time would expand with technology and the increasing space to cover as the UFP's explored borders grew. So, I hope that surmises the history of the 5-year mission for you. A good way to think of it: the ship is essentially flying around with an occupied light on. You can interrupt it, especially if you're the one giving it its orders, but best to make sure it's convenient for the vessel too. I've been Rick, thanks for watching, and until the next lore drop, goodbye.